They have a saying in France that Napoleon came up with. Impossible n'est pas français. Impossible is not a French concept. We don't do impossible in France. And so if you're just waiting for a good reason to learn French, well, I came up with 11 of them. And I can promise you they are neither impossible nor boring.
Bonjour, my friend. Let's grab a baguette together and drink some wine. Life is beautiful.
Ah, so you don't speak French?
Well, they do not have this reputation for nothing. If you really want to have a good time in France, please learn how to communicate with French people in French. French people, well, they prefer to speak their own language and they will appreciate your efforts, even though we all know they really want to speak English.
That's quite true, yeah. We actually want to speak English, but we struggle to speak English.
Okay, well, maybe not. But rudeness is it's not a French thing, it's a personality thing. The French actually value politeness and respect, so it's better to start off by greeting someone in French and not just assume that they will speak English to you. The thing is, in France, it's kind of expected that you at least try.
Un jus de fruit. Une jus de fruit. Orange, jus de fruit. Ah, un jus de fruit.
One thing French people do angle towards is correcting your mistakes. But honestly, guys, it's not an arrogance thing. They are flattered and they want to help you. You can handle that, can't you? And once you've conquered Paris, you could hit the trails to find places where really no one speaks English. What is this crazy, beautiful magic? But hold on a sec, aren't we forgetting something? Learning French is not just about France or getting a great nanny job in London or LA. The world of the French language is enormous, and all of these countries also speak French. So what if you're never going to go to Togo? Well, there are 321 million people on the earth who speak French, each with their own amazing culture. And do you know where people are learning French? Well, on all 5 continents. If you like numbers, that's a cool 132 million people learning French right now. But how about keeping up with world news? Well, if you love politics or just hate being kept in the dark, French can show you an alternative view of the world. I personally love watching French news and French debates. You can follow French news from the leading French language media. See what the leaders and commentators are saying, and next time you have a different viewpoint to share, you can say, oh, it wasn't on CNN. I heard it on a French channel. Well, you won't be wrong.
I heard that so many times when people are telling me, oh, it sounds so sexy, say something. Yeah. Then I would be like, patate, pomme de terre. And they'd be like, oh my god. Dans mon cœur, tu es une personne très importante. Oh.
Wow. French is, of course, well known as the language of charm and sophistication. And speaking it beautifully will make you feel good. It really will. The language has all these incredible words that sound really fancy, even when they're not, like caoutchouc and chauve-souris. And yes, you have to learn some tricky pronunciation, but that's precisely why it's cool and fun, and why you can express yourself in a very particular way, aiming to be flawlessly French, of course.
Je m'appelle.
Pelle.
Great. Okay, faster. Je m'appelle.
Pelle.
Je m'appelle.
Mais poupou.
Or you can just pretend you're French, because that's also fun.
Ah. The red roses were fresh yesterday. The red roses were fresh yesterday.
The French language is a window on France's famous art of living. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's no secret that France is synonymous with art, history, fashion, food, wine. Okay, we'll save the wine for later. But French is the language of culture, and it's not all Parisian glamour. It's been a vital part of many cultural movements and artistic expressions as far back as the Middle Ages. When summer comes, well, festivals spring up all over the country, like Mardi Gras or the 3-day Château Perché festival that takes place at castles all around France. Music, literature, cinema. If it's French, it is fabulous. And by learning French, you can get a glimpse into this rich cultural heritage and really understand what makes French people tick. By the way, if you're enjoying this video and would like to hear more about fabulous things I've got from other countries, I've got you. Just click like, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and you will hear all about it. Très facile. When you're done growing your culture, perhaps you want to try being a real-life hero. Okay, you do need some kind of military training for this one, but if that's you, why not volunteer as a UN peacekeeper? It's only a year of your life, and I have a very insightful video here about what they do. It's a very, very cool story. Anyway, one thing that comes to the surface is that you usually have to be good at French to get in. You work in places like French West Africa, helping people and doing incredibly brave things to heal the world a little bit. You also get to wear this cool uniform. And come to think of it, if you're fully bilingual, there's another cool job hidden in there somewhere. But I digress. Back to this video.
Carte noire présente, douceur intense.
Comme c'est bizarre, il y a quelque chose de différent chez toi. T'as l'air plus grand et plus balèze.
Non, ça doit être grâce à mon pantalon.
Nom d'un bigorneau.
If you don't want a boring career, and who does, one of the best things you can do is to learn a language, and French is one of the most useful languages that you can learn. Why? Because French gets you into places where English is not enough. Like, ever thought of being a voiceover artist? Well, if you have an awesome speaking voice and can also speak French, you have the natural tools for the totally awesome job of dubbing French movies, cartoons and commercials. Another exciting avenue is to work in a casino or a cruise ship, or in a casino or on a cruise ship. And if you don't want to leave home, you can even be a tour guide for the French tourists in your own city. Many of these more adventurous jobs where you're helping foreigners or doing a lot of talking require you to be bilingual in English and French. And as for France, well, I'll be honest, it's going to be very difficult to get a job in France with no French at all. Like, pretty much impossible. So that's a damn good reason right there.
Plus de ça.
All right, French, say you want more of something, what would you say? Yes, like this. Okay, and say you want no more of something, what would you say? Like this. That's the same thing. Yeah.
There is a reason many celebrities send their kids to that famous French high school. You know the one? It's the Lycée Français in New York. It's one of the most renowned institutions in the world, and like the Lycée in Los Angeles, is very popular among the stars. Why? Well, French has always been considered an excellent language for a richer and more rounded education. Actually, France itself has some of the world's top universities, which is partly because of amazing achievements of French researchers. Did you know that France has had 73 Nobel Prize winners? Also nice, there are some fantastic scholarships out there for students who can speak French. Hint, hint. So if you can get in there, it's definitely going to be a good one for your CV and make you a lot more employable, especially if you take on the challenge of studying in France. Have you ever had a bite of something that you last tasted in your childhood and then next thing, your brain just exploded with memories? Well, that déjà vu feeling is an intense sensory power we have, and it's known that we remember things best when all 5 senses are involved. Well, in France, the art of living begins with eating well, and do they take this to the next level? French cuisine is an art form, and let's not even talk about the wine from Bordeaux or the champagne from Champagne. Here's a crazy fact. Heard of UNESCO heritage sites? Well, UNESCO put the so-called gastronomic meal of the French down as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Can you believe that? So here's where the language comes in. Have you noticed how many food words are actually French? Well, check these out. If you're a dedicated foodie, learning French will take your own gastronomic adventure to the next level.
When shopping, people exchange knowledge, give advice, and share cooking tips. The market is a place for conversation and transmission.
Bon appétit et cuisine bien. Merci.
Ever since French cooking techniques hit planet Earth centuries ago, foodies have been learning French for a more immersive French cooking experience, which in turn makes a more immersive language experience. And if you had to do this too, you're probably going to understand the French language faster. It's all about learning through pleasure. Speaking of which, my own indulgence is French stories, because I've discovered that we all learn languages faster when we do less analysing, less grammar, and more enjoying. And in fact, here at Story Learning, we teach languages through stories. Stories are the best way to learn any languages, because stories are how we learned our first languages. It's how we learn languages naturally, which is exactly how we teach over here. And if you'd like to learn more about learning languages like French through story, well, I've put together a completely free story learning kit that shows you how to use the amazing power of stories to learn languages. If you're curious, it's completely free. Link in the description below.
Que l'hiver soit aux amants. On a vu s'enfuir nos vies et on a couru après.
Some people say that French people are sexy and cool, and liking French stuff is sexy and cool. Well, I don't know. Blame it on the legacy of French movie icons like Brigitte Bardot. And if you ever watched a classic movie, there's a good chance you've heard dozens of French songs. And if you haven't, well, you should. After World War I, French singers brought a lot of life back to Europe with really beautiful, iconic music genres like la chanson française and yéyé. Of course, now they do everything from punk rock to gangster rap, but sorry, France, you definitely do sultry a lot better. Here's a fun fact. France has a law that at least 40% of all songs played on French radio have to be in the French language. I see a pretty good opportunity here, don't you?
Many find working with MSF to be a rewarding experience. But working for MSF isn't just about seeking adventure or wanting a cool job. Primarily, it's about delivering the best possible medical care to people in need and standing in solidarity with those who often have no one else to rely on.
If you aspire to be a change maker, did you know that some of the most fascinating organizations in the world conduct their business in French? The European Space Agency, the Olympics, NATO, Amnesty International, the United Nations, Doctors Without Borders. Many of these have French as their only official language or one of their few official languages. But I'm mostly thinking of humanitarian work here. Let's say you have some medical experience and you want to get your foot in the door with Doctors Without Borders, and well done you. A lot of the missions are in French-speaking countries, and so French language skills are high up on the list. You don't have to be fluent, but you should be competent, and I'm not only talking to doctors here. They also hire people like nutrition advisors, psychologists, and a lot of non-medical professions too. In a simple search for NGO jobs requiring French, I found 715 jobs on the development aid website alone.
Pour moi, c'est juste de continuer d'être comme mon grand-père était, comme ma grand-mère était. C'est juste vivre la vie, vivre la culture.
French is a great base for learning other languages, especially Romance languages like Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, or whatever this cowboy is speaking. Look at this amazing chart. See what I mean? French is not even a particularly difficult language to learn, relatively speaking. It just takes a bit of precision. And once you get your French up to an intermediate level, well, voila, you'll be ready to tackle your next Romance language. Or if you really want to thunderstrike them, take your French prowess and go and pick up some Creole like the cowboy. But first, definitely learn French, and a good place to start is this video that I chose especially for you.